everybody, it's Kyra from BodyCandy. Welcome back to another episode of The Tea. On today's episode, we will be speaking about why are some piercings anatomy dependent. But before we get into that, as always, remember to like, comment and subscribe to BodyCandy. Make sure you see all of these videos and let's go. So we get a lot of questions about specific piercings and what kind of anatomy is required to get them. This is a term I use in so many different videos, anatomy dependent this, anatomy dependent that, but what does it actually mean? So we're going to take a brief moment to address the issue once and for all with a long look on what makes a piercing anatomy specific. What does that term really mean for you and what piercing that you want? So what is it? An anatomy specific piercing is one that requires you to have a certain build to the place that you want pierced. So this can be depending on the actual piercing being discussed. With a navel piercing, doesn't have the same requirements as an industrial piercing, naturally. What they do both have in common, however, is that they both have a certain biological standard to be able to maintain those piercings. So are all piercings anatomy specific? Yes, with the possible exception of earlobes. If you're not built for the piercing, you aren't going to be able to get it. Every piercing from your septum to your tragus to a dermal is going to need certain minimal requirements for you to be able to get it done. Everybody's body is different. And while this is a wonderful thing about the human body, it does also mean that not everybody is suited for every piercing. Are some piercings more anatomy specific than others? Yes, actually. Some of the most anatomy dependent piercings include, but are not limited to, the navel. So you need a defined lip at the top of your belly button and your navel can't collapse upon sitting down. The industrial, so it requires a very well-defined helix and a low flat, which is the open flat part of your ear. The septum, your septum cannot be deviated. Don't panic if you don't have the anatomy for any of these. There are ways around it. If your navel does fold when you sit, a floating navel might be what you're looking for. If you don't have the proper setup for an industrial, a floating industrial will probably work for you. Your septum is deviated, clip-on jewellery exists for a reason. And if you're quite sure that you don't have the anatomy for the piercing you want, it's always worth having a chat with a trustworthy piercer and see if there's any kind of workaround to get you a similar look. So how does anatomy actually affect the healing of a piercing? If you get a piercing that is not suited to your anatomy, it will either not heal properly or it won't heal at all. A navel piercing with pressure applied due to the fold at the navel is likely to eventually just migrate or reject completely. A pierced deviated septum is likely to heal very crooked. An industrial piercing without enough helix is likely to migrate or reject again, while one pierced with a flat that is too high is liable to find the barbell digging into the flat. This can eventually cause the skin to break and cause permanent damage like scarring. Your body is not designed to support the piercing. The odds of migration or rejection are kind of stacked against you, unfortunately. If you go to your piercer and they tell you that you did not have the anatomy for the piercing that you want, they're not doing it to hurt you. They're actually trying to save you from pain and scarring from a piercing that refuses to heal or possibly heals but doesn't kind of look the way you wanted it. A good piercer should have your best interests at heart. So I hope this video helped and cleared up some of the misconceptions about anatomy dependent piercings. But as always, remember to like, comment, subscribe to BodyCandy and we will catch you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.